Hello, everyone. Welcome to my third and final guest lecture for your course on God, Religion, and Violence this term. I am, of course, Kev, and today our topic will be anti-Semitism. So take out your notebooks and let's dive on this journey together. Anti-Semitism may not be or may be accurately defined as a form of hostility, prejudice, or discrimination against Jews. Our exploration will take us through history, examining how anti-Semitism has evolved and manifested in various contexts, including its intersections with religion and violence, especially. The term anti-Semitism first appeared in the vocabulary of 19th century Europe. Wilhelm Marr, a German journalist, used it in 1879 to promote opposition to Jews based on their race rather than their religion. This marked a significant shift from the prior religiously based anti-Judaism prevalent in medieval Europe. However, anti-Semitic sentiments predated Marr's term, deeply rooted in Christian theological claims. Scholars like Galvin Lukmar and Peter Schaefer have explored this distinction between religiously based anti-Judaism, exemplified by claims of Jewish genocide, and modern racial anti-Semitism. Langmar's work, particularly his concept of chimerical anti-Semitism, delves into the irrationality and mythic aspects of medieval anti-Semitic beliefs, understanding these forms as precursors to later racial definitions. One of the things that is so unique about anti-Semitism is its close relationship to the Jewish collective identity. Throughout the Hebrew Bible, narratives of chosenness of the Israelites by God are the foundation of their collective identity. These narratives begin early on, epitomized by scriptures such as Exodus 19:5 through 6, stating, and I quote, "Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my commandment, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." 613 laws were given to the Jews to maintain their distinctiveness. These laws may include economic practices, religious rituals, dietary and bathroom restrictions, and much more. However, alongside this narrative of chosenness is a perpetual victimization by the outside world. If the Jewish people had, as the Jewish people lived, they have been discriminated against. The beginning of their origin story is 400 years of slavery in Egypt. Their most sacred temple was once destroyed by the Babylonians and again by the Romans. Whether founded in supernatural opposition or an aspirational desire to be one of God's chosen people, the Israelites are taught through their sacred narratives to expect discrimination, which has only intensified since the solidification of the Hebrew Bible's canon. Jews were considered by many to be second-class citizens for most of their existence, was often seen as a nation within a nation, which of course threatened the broader nation in which they participated. Jews have often been subject to additional taxes and further restrictions in a lot of different forms. While entire book series have been written on the history of anti-Semitism, I will attempt to provide us with some of the most significant highlights in this presentation. For the purposes of our exploration of the term anti-Semitism, let us pick up the thread in the medieval period. In the medieval period, anti-Semitism was heavily influenced by religious contexts. Theological disputes painted Jews as outsiders working against the Christian order. Notably, these entrenched myths solidified with damaging legends such as the bloody libel and host desecration accusations. Bloody libel refers to a false accusation historically leveled against Jewish communities, claiming that they abduct or murder non-Jews, especially Christian children, to use their blood in religious rituals, particularly for making like baskets during Passover. Post-desecration rituals refer to accusations of false claims that Jewish people or other groups desecrated the consecrated Eucharist host or the bread used in the communion. Vital to understanding this era is the work of historian R.I. Moore, whose studies on heresy in medieval societies show how societal control mechanisms led to persecution practices of which Jews often bore the brunt. Concerning blood libels, scholars such as Israeli Yuval have demonstrated how certain legends targeting Jews incited violence across Europe, highlighted by massacres following accusations such as those in Norwich and Trent. The systemic segregation of Jews via ghettos and exclusion further entrenched Jewish marginalization. These measures cemented their outsider status both legally and socially, creating conditions that enabled persecution to become institutionalized and often legally sanctioned. Yep. Moving into the 19th century, we witness an evolution from religious prejudice to racialized anti-Semitism, underpinned by dubious claims of scientific racism. This period is marked by significant events, notably the Dryas Affair. This scandal highlighted the pervasive nature of anti-Semitic beliefs within the French state and society. Notably, the work like scholars such as Jean-Denis Brendan provides an in-depth analysis of the Dreyfus Affair, illustrating its pivotal influence on political discourse and the eventual emergence of Zionism as a political movement, as detailed by Theodore Herzl. Simultaneously, programs across Eastern Europe, studied extensively by John Clear, drove waves of migration. His work charts how these violent outbreaks were driven by economic instabilities and political upheavals, exacerbating anti-Jewish hostility, which uniquely blended political, ethnic, and social tensions. All right, the Holocaust, or the Shoah as it's known in Hebrew, stands out as one of the darkest and the most disturbing chapters in human history. A systemic genocide campaign orchestrated by Nazi Germany that targeted Jews alongside several marginalized groups, including the Romani people, disabled individuals, Soviet POWs, and other ethnic and political opponents. Jews in Nazi Germany faced rancid discrimination starting in 1933 with the laws such as the Nuremberg Laws of 1935, which revoked their citizenship and ostracized them from various societal dimensions. This legalized racial purity codification, extensively examined by historians like Saul Friedlander, categorized Jews based on pseudoscientific racial definitions. As World War II commenced, these policies escalated into organized isolation measures, exemplified by establishing ghettos in occupied territories. The Warsaw Ghetto, as studied by Timothy Snyder in Bloodlands, symbolized these despairing enclaves where starvation, disease, and deprivation ravaged the Jewish populations residing therein. The transition to extermination, spearheaded by the notorious Wannsee Conference in January of 1942, where high-ranking Nazi officials endorsed the final solution, signaled the maximization of persecution. This plan saw the implementation of industrial-scale murder mechanisms, particularly within concentration and extermination camps like Auschwitz, Sobibor, and Treblinka. By the time of their liberation, approximately 6 million Jews, comprising two-thirds of US Jewish population, had perished, alongside millions of other groups depersonalized under Nazi ideology. Despite the unthinkable atrocities of the Holocaust, the conclusion of World War II did not signify an end to anti-Semitism. Indeed, surviving myths and stereotypes persisted, indicating that deeply ingrained prejudice did not simply vanish with the dismantling of the Third Reich. The post-war period was marked by the watershed Nuremberg trials, which represented a groundbreaking effort in international law to judicially address crimes against humanity, including the genocide of the Jewish people. Scholarly engagement, such as those by Telford Taylor in outlining legal precedents, reveals how these trials aimed not only at punishing leadership, but also at producing a historic record that exposed the depths of the ingrained anti-Semitism embedded in vast social structures. The war's end concurrently ushered in the pivotal establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. With Israel's formation emerged a myriad of new tensions, and the Jewish state became another hotspot for anti-Semitic rhetoric. In post-war Europe and beyond, the geopolitical realignment often drew on historical anti-Semitic patterns to foster nationalistic sentiments, sparking waves of anti-Jewish incidents even in the shadows of the Holocaust conclusions. Moving to contemporary occurrences, anti-Semitism has reconfigured itself within the information age, capitalizing on digital platforms to disseminate and spur hate. The anonymity of the internet, explored in studies like those by Maury Conray and colleagues, furnishes an unbounded landscape for dangerous ideologies to flourish, enabling the spread of age-old conspiracies under modern facades, such as insidious motifs of global Jewish control or financial conspiracies populating the viral memes and forums. In political arenas, the resurgence of far-right politics across many Western democracies revitalizes a troubling specter. Figures and parties grounded in nationalist chauvinism often leverage coded and anti-Semitic language, sometimes cloaked as anti-elitist critique, to appeal to broad disenfranchised bases. Antique Gutenberg's examination of recent movements demonstrate how such ideologies manipulate history, invoking nationalistic pride while perpetuating Jewish stereotypes and causality of myth regarding societal and economic disruptions. Notably, discussions about the legitimacy of the Israeli nation state housed a discourse wherein stereotypical tropes of delegitimation of Jewish self-determination may flourish. This sphere often sparks debates surrounding distinctions between anti-Semitism and legitimate policy critique, highlighting nuanced yet necessary explorations of intent, content, and impact of legislation. This global battle against contemporary anti-Semitism demands multifaceted tactics, coupling the immediacy of legal framework with long-term educational and communal interventions. Education stands at the core of proactive measures. Historically analyzed by scholars like Deborah Lipstadt, Holocaust education increasingly finds integration into curricula worldwide, forming barriers against ignorance, a theory backed vehemently by noted Holocaust scholar Yehuda Bauer, who advocates for historical literacy as an essential prophylactic against intolerance. Vienna-born Simon Wessenthal, works reminds us of the imperative necessity of engaging newer generations through broader dialogues encompassing all branches of historical, racial, ethnic, and religious prejudices, transforming classrooms into environments that discuss diversity, respect, and mutual humanity beyond singular groups. Furthermore, around the world, through adversaries by international bodies such as the IHRA, statutory interpretations are developing that make anti-Semitic behavior punishable, upheld diligently amid challenging digital communication landscapes. Finally, interfaith and intercultural dialogue serve as invaluable in countering anti-Semitism, addressing both misconceptions and building lasting partnerships. All right, that should give us a brief introduction to the history and relevance of anti-Semitic discourse. I thank you all for your time and attention, and as always, I encourage anyone curious to reach out with any questions, comments, or concerns. Y'all have a great one, and enjoy your class.